Welcome to 2015, everyone. Embrace yourselves, because today we're going to be talking about the console war. And yes, I am doing some nice air quotations. Oh baby, the comment section on this one is going to be interesting. The good old console wars. Throughout the years, dedicated gaming fans and media pay close attention to the overall sales of a console to determine a winner and a loser of each generation. These console wars really got cooking in the Sega versus Nintendo days.
The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do? And what if you don't have blast processing?
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
GP free or columns free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo don't.
When Sega took to a particular type of advertising to make Nintendo look kiddie, and while that advertising has subsided in the current time frame, the fans, or should I say fanboys, of any one of the consoles still try to drive these ignorant points home to anybody dumb enough to listen. But I digress. This is not a video where we discuss the history of the console war per se, but how the actual point or relevancy of this generation, the 8th generation's console wars, mean little to nothing. But before we delve into that, I need to explain why the console wars were at one point relevant and how we've gotten to where it is now. Back in the NES, PS1, Sega Genesis, and even up to the PS2 time era to a degree, the main console manufacturers actually made a nice bit of profit on the actual console sold at launch, or early in the console's lifespan. While most of the money was still made on the software sales, the actual unit sale did net these companies a tiny little profit. If we take a look at Nintendo, for example, the Wii U was the first system in the company's history that was not sold at a profit initially. Previous gen's console wars were far more significant due to the companies actually selling the systems at a profit, while individual software greatly enhanced the value of each system. Making sure to win the sales battle at retail was vital to the company's overall profit. Now let's fast forward to the modern era console war. We'll start with the 7th generation of systems, because this is where things started getting a little murky. The Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360. Nintendo had the foresight to see that the first HD era would cost the company a ton of money. Instead of making a pricey HD system like Microsoft and Sony did, they opted to make a cheaper SD system in the Wii, saving the company money, R&D costs, and time in the process. The system continued Nintendo's trend of profitable consoles, and it just so happened to be the best-selling console last generation. Sony's PS3 started out abysmally, but not because of the poor sales from the beginning, but because of the amount of tech put into the system and the amount lost on each unit sold. Sony lost hundreds of dollars on each PS3 sold, which quickly accumulated into billions of dollars lost within a few years' time. Combine that with the first-party software sales that didn't match the PS2, and Sony found themselves in trouble in a hurry. And while the PS3 eventually became profitable, a lot of the damage had already been done. Damage that Sony's currently still facing to this day, but more on that later. Microsoft's Xbox 360 might have had the worst launch of any modern system when it came to system durability. While the console was powerful and had a lot of cool features new to the gaming scene, the system was literally a ticking time bomb on the inside. The Red Ring of Death, which many dubbed the RROD for short, was one of the worst cases of system failure in video game history. The massive issues the Xbox 360 had really hit the Xbox division hard. The overall cost of fixing and replacing defective Xbox 360s was near $3 billion US. Combine that with the fact that Xbox 360 was already being sold at a loss initially, and you have a division within Microsoft that proved to be one of the most costly divisions to operate from a profit to loss sense. However, Microsoft has deep pockets, and they had the money to continue operating as if nothing happened. These same losses would have crippled any other video game company out there for sure. Now, if you've made it this far in this video, you're probably saying, yeah, but software sales on the PS3 and Xbox 360 are good. They had to have made their money back. And in previous generations, yes, you would be right. But the 7th generation was the apex of what I like to call the rise of the money hat era. Microsoft and Sony, in their own crazy battle to win out gamers, would constantly and still constantly shell out money to third-party publishers to make exclusive content for their versions of games. For example, Microsoft would pay Activision for DLC content to come to Xbox 360 first with Call of Duty, while Sony paid Warner Bros. For exclusive DLC on some of the Batman games. This type of behavior took profits out of the hands of Sony and Microsoft and right into the hands of third-party developers. And there really isn't much evidence to prove that this content actually swayed many people to purchase that version of the game. It seems like people just bought the version of the game that their friends play the most. If you look at the numbers, both Microsoft and Sony sold 80 million units plus of their 7th generation systems. Yes, I know some of those numbers were a little bit inflated due to the red ring of death and even the yellow light of death. Yet, how much profit or money do they have to show for it? It's widely noted that the PS3 lost Sony billions and even prompted Sony Computer Entertainment president Andrew House to say, quote, "Sony Computer Entertainment is not allowed to fail anymore with the PlayStation 4 because the game business for Sony is a core business that embodies a fusion of both hardware and software," end quotation. So wait a minute. What was Mr. House alluding to when he said fail? Obviously, it wasn't the PS1 and PS2. Those were Sony's most successful years, not only dominating console sales with the widely profitable systems, but dominating software sales without the need to bribe developers, with exclusive deals all the time. Many developers just made games on the PS2 exclusive because the install base was so high. It seemed just like a normal business decision. Sony got maximum profits, a killer line of exclusive games, and didn't shell out anywhere near as much money as they did in the 7th and 8th generation for exclusive maps or bonus content. Companies are in a business to make money, not to sell the most consoles for fanboys to argue back and forth about who sold more. All the companies somewhat use the fanboy mentality to sell consoles. Heck, we saw Sony do it at E3 in 2013. But given the option, any of these companies would gladly trade the overall console sales lead for an overall bigger profit. The only issue with that in this current gen is the money-hiding culture and the power that the third-party developers have. It seems like Sony and Microsoft have no choice to do these tactics just to stay competitive against each other. Nintendo kind of put their foot down with the Wada saying if we did the same tactics, money-hiding, like Sony and Microsoft did to get third-party developers, there'd be, quotations, no end to it. And from the looks of how the 7th generation went and how the 8th generation is going, he's 100% right. And speaking of the 8th generation, this is where things get really, really interesting because currently the Wii U is the media and many gamers' whipping boy due to the sales struggles. And while Nintendo has not sold anywhere near as much Wii U's as they would have hoped, things for the other two companies aren't ideal either. And allow me to explain. Trust me, I do know about Sony selling over 18 million PS4s. We'll get to that. Remember, the goal of a business is to make money and to be profitable. Arguing about sales of one console versus another automatically includes the discussion of a company's financial situation or the actual gaming division's profits. Nintendo and Sony both have stated that their home consoles are profitable. While we don't know the margin of profit for each console sold, they are both supposedly profitable, right? Due to the cost of developing games and the lack of sales for the Nintendo's Wii U console initially, profits have dwindled and pretty much disappeared over the past few years. However, in 2014, Nintendo finally recorded a profit in Q2 after 3 years of losses. And due to the release of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, Bayonetta 2, Hyrule Warriors, Mario Kart 8, Captain Toad, Shovel Knight, Donkey Kong Country, and other high-profile releases, Nintendo's holiday season is looking pretty good. And all of this is despite Wii U sales being at the bottom of the, here comes the air quotes, console wars. And this is even before we talk about Amiibo, which has sold over 1 million units worldwide. Just to let you guys know, Amiibo probably has a higher profit margin or near a profit margin of 50% if it's anything like Skylanders or Disney Infinity. That is a lot of extra cash that goes into Nintendo's pockets that doesn't show up in these console war numbers. Another thing to note is that first-party software nets Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo more money than third-party software. What company has the highest selling first-party games? Nintendo by a long shot. Console sales are one thing, but software sales in today's industry mean more than anything, and especially first-party sales. Moving on to Microsoft. We already know the Xbox One is sold at a loss. Microsoft tried to sell the system for $499 and that failed. So then they reduced the price to $399. That right there is already a huge blow to the Xbox division's profits because the firm was expecting to sell the console for $499, not $399. On a console that's already being sold at a loss, you probably don't want to be forced into reducing the price again. You think Nintendo's situation is bad? Imagine if they reduced the price of the Wii U by $100 less than a few months after launch. Nintendo's losses would have been far bigger than they were. Would they have sold more systems? Probably, but that doesn't mean they would have made more profit, considering the system was already being sold at a slight loss from the beginning. Microsoft, being the type of company they are, felt they needed to jumpstart sales even more by having a temporary price drop to $349.99. And while it did spur sales for the holiday period, the PS4 still sold more units worldwide, if that means anything to you, and the PS4 also had more software sold on their system over the Xbox One. So while Microsoft increased hardware sales, the software didn't keep up with that pace, and they hemorrhaged money in order to win the console war battle, at least in the US and the UK. That's great Microsoft increased their console sales, but when you're selling a system for $150 less than the listing price at launch, something has gone terribly wrong within the last year. And I already know what some of you guys are saying. What about Xbox Live and PS Plus sales revenue? That has to make these companies a lot of money. And I would say yes, it does make money for these companies. However, there's always a however. I personally feel it's not enough to completely cover the losses in Microsoft's case. If you look at the Xbox One, there are a lot of servers and maintenance to be performed. If everyone that owned the Xbox One and Xbox 360 paid $60 a year to access this service, Xbox Live, it could offset these losses and be super profitable. But everyone doesn't pay $60 for Xbox Live. We know less than half do. And even then, a lot of people pick up the discounted Xbox Live cards or only have 3-month subscriptions. The revenue from these subscriptions is not covering everything. Look guys, 20-year Microsoft analyst Rick Sherlin said it best. Investors are blind to the Xbox's struggles because they are, quotations, concealed by the hugely profitable Android royalties. Microsoft blends Xbox, Skype, Windows Phone, and the Android division into one group. This way, investors won't be able to see all the cash Xbox actually burns up due to the mass amounts of money the Android patent royalties make. Sherlin has estimated the Xbox division has generated around $2 billion in losses over the past few years. So I ask again, what does this console war even matter with these type of losses being hidden? Microsoft outsold the PS4 in the US and UK in November. And what? The Xbox division is still not widely profitable, and nothing has really changed for Microsoft when it comes to that division. But I know what some of you guys are probably saying. You are just a Nintendo and you don't know what you're talking about. Well, this is what I have to say to that. Listen to Microsoft's own CEO who said that, quotations, Xbox is not a core part of Microsoft's business. If Microsoft's Xbox platform was truly profitable, or even profitable at all, it would be a core part of Microsoft's business strategy. Remember, Sony said the PlayStation is a core part of the company's business. And compared to how the rest of Sony is doing, yeah, they're right. But speaking of Sony, notice how Sony has to come up with all these different subscription services for the PS3 and PS4 eras. I mean, PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now, Music Unlimited, all this junk. All with separate payment options and plans. Sony needs to make money somewhere, because despite the PS4 selling 3.3 million units in quarter 2 of 2014, the whole PlayStation division profited a little more than 200 million. Now, I'm not a business major or anything, but that is an extremely small amount of money for thoroughly dominating the competition in the console wars. Nintendo didn't sell anywhere near as many Wii U's or 3DS's in the same period in Q2, and Microsoft didn't even scratch that either with the Xbox One and Xbox 360 combined, yet Sony didn't make much more profit than Nintendo that quarter. So what does that mean? The relevancy of this whole console war has dwindled down to damn near nothing. Nintendo's Amiibo is not counted towards this console war and provides Nintendo with millions of dollars in revenue. The Xbox division hemorrhages money in order to boost console sales because they can hide losses in Android patent royalties. And while the PS4 sales are fantastic, the net profit on each console sold isn't high, and the lack of first-party game sales leaves Sony's PlayStation division with big numbers for the PS4, but disproportionate numbers in actual profit made. I don't know, maybe the money hatting also doesn't help. Who knows how many millions Sony paid to Ubisoft and Activision for exclusive DLC for Watch Dogs and Destiny. My opinion of the console wars after further inspection: nothing more but fodder for the fanboys. This is nothing but the media generated hype. They want the clicks, they want the revenue, and doing stuff like this, pitting people against each other, really brings that out. So that's the reason why this console war still exists within the media and within so-called gamers. The Wii, last generation, sold the most, yet I didn't care. I like the PS3 and Xbox 360 more, and to be exact, I like the Xbox 360 the most because it had the games that I like the most. The 3DS has outsold every system out right now. The Xbox One, PS4, all that junk. Does it matter to me? No, it doesn't matter. I love the 3DS because it has the best games, it has the RPGs that I want to play. Same goes for the Wii U. Same goes for when I get my PS4. When I buy that, it's going to be because of the games. Gamers like to argue back and forth about these console wars, but honestly, it doesn't matter. These numbers prove it, and really, like I said, it's just fodder for these fanboys and for media generated hype. So, in 2015, we all have New Year's resolutions. Let's make it a goal to drop this console war garbage, because in the end, it's really becoming more irrelevant than ever. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit that like button, as it really helps us spread our content across YouTube. Also, make sure to subscribe if you're someone new. Also, make sure you check out the description below. There you'll have links to playeressence.com. There you can check out all your news, reviews, trailers, tips, and tricks, and plenty of other awesome stuff on gaming. Also, check out some of these other videos that I've done on YouTube. It's some of my best other content that I've done on this channel. Give it a click if you want to watch it. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you for the next video.